Tingles with flyby. Hello my tinglings, and hello my fellow Crows fans, or footy followers. I'm gonna give a little brief introduction for the Crows followers who find this video as to what ASMR is about, so for my tinglings, probably you can skip past the next minute or listen to me talk about this. So ASMR is designed to be relaxing, so that's why I speak in a soft-spoken voice rather than a normal toned voice, and kind of have hand movements and that sort of thing. So it's a little hard for me to be super relaxing when I'm talking about something that I'm as excited about as the Crows, but I will attempt. So what this video is going to be is a story of the season video. So I'm just going to go round by round through all the games of the season, and I'll give the margin, who we played, and maybe a couple other facts depending on what game it was, and also my memories of the game. So I have a little list here to make sure that I get certain details correct. So let's go ahead and get started. So first game of the season was round 1 against the GWS Giants at Adelaide Oval. It was on a Sunday. I remember that because I was actually missed the first quarter because we were flying back from the Gold Coast from watching our women win a grand final there. So good omen that today we're discussing a winning grand final, and hopefully can add a second one for the year. Hashtag do the double. That's my hashtag. So round 1, I did come in after quarter time, and the big projection has been that GWS, Greater Western Sydney, the GWS Giants, they were going to be a lot better. They were flag favorites, and so there was a lot of thought that perhaps that this could potentially be our toughest game of the year, and we get it first up. Well, we blitzed them. It was an amazing game. We just were soaring, hit the ground running. Oh, so good. The final margin was 147-91, and Eddie Betts kicked 4 goals. Ever the magician Eddie is. And just a great way to start the season. Round 2, we traveled over to the MCG and played the Hawks. Now, the Hawks have been very good for a long time, and we had not beaten them, I think, since 2011. Can't say that for sure, but we hadn't beaten them for a very long time, so it was very good to get a win against them, even though they ended up not being that good this year. It was very important for us to win against them and get some early momentum going on in the year. So we won that game 113-89. My memorable moment of that game, which probably some of my memorable moments will be free kicks, oh well, was below, a player for the other team, he had taken the ball, had an opportunity to get rid of it, didn't get rid of it, got tackled, and he got a free kick. Everyone thought it was abysmal, because it was abysmal. And then the umpiring boss came out after the game and didn't say, oh, the incorrect decision has been made and we've addressed it. They said, oh, well, I can see where the umpire was coming from. And I can understand you want to sympathize with your employee, but the next step after sympathizing is then correcting and saying, but the correct interpretation in this instance would be, as opposed to letting things go willy-nilly. There were a lot of maddening umpiring decisions, not just in our games. I actually stopped watching many neutral games because of the umpiring and the rules. But I digress. This is a happy video. We'll try and limit the amount of time talking about the umpires. So Eddie Betts kicked 3 goals, and David McKay kicked 3 goals as well. He had a good game. It was a very good game from him. Round 3 was our first showdown of the year. It was the away showdown, so Port's home showdown. We won that 100-83, and Tex kicked 4. I don't actually remember that game that well, so that's all I got. I remember they were coming at us late, and then we just kind of got the job done. Very important. Round 4 was against the Essendon Bombers, and we beat them 153-88, so quite a big margin. But up to that point of the year, well, and I still think kind of to now, I feel like they're the best team that I've actually watched play, at least on the offense side. I mean, obviously they didn't really shut us down very well, but I think they are probably the best offense after us. Very damaging, very attacking brand of footy. It was very exciting to watch, even though we beat them by a fair margin. And Eddie Betts kicked 6 that day, so a lot of Eddie magic. Round 5 was back up to the Gold Coast, a little place to relive a grand final victory from the women. And against the Gold Coast Suns. They have been bad for a long time. Late in the season, they were playing Port at Adelaide Oval, and it looked like, our team plays in the AFL. Our reserve side plays for the SANFL, so that's kind of the next column below. So the Suns looked like, not sure if they could have beaten SANFL side. They looked pretty bad. But they were a bit better at that time of the year. And Matt Crouch, major ball winner, got 35. Oh, I was going to say that in the first round, Rory Laird came away with 40 possessions. Well done. Round 6. Now, a lot's going to be spoken of round 6, as it should. And that's because the grand final is going to be a replay of round 6 at a different ground. So this was against the Richmond Tigers, and we won 140-64. Crouch, also major ball winner again, with 38 possessions, and Taylor Texas Walker kicked 5 goals. I think it will be another worry for them. Tex is an amazing forward, and so they have the All-Australian fullback, Alex Rance. But Rance is a bit more of a creative defender than a good shutdown defender, and obviously he got a huge bath that day when playing on Tex. I don't think they'll put him on Tex this time. I mean, anyway, I just mean, is it really the best defend? Like, are they really the best defender if they don't even take the best forward? Talia always takes the best forward. Anyway, I love Talia. Taz, the Taz man. So, it'll be an interesting contest. Hopefully I don't make a fool of myself, but I think it's good signs for us. So, go the Crows. Hopefully we can get the job done today. Now to the... So, if you've noticed, we're to round 6. Haven't had a loss yet. Wonderful. So we started out the season 6-0, which is great. And then we had an absolute shocker. So all the teams, so you have two teams in South Australia, Adelaide, Port Adelaide. You have 10 teams in Victoria, all in Melbourne or Geelong, but basically in Melbourne area. You have 2 teams in Sydney, 2 teams in Queensland, and 2 teams in WA. If you notice, I didn't mention Tasmania, that little island that sits off the side of Australia, is a part of Australia. They are mad for their footy, but have a small population, and so they don't have a footy side. But they do have, 2 Melbourne sides, Hawthorn and North Melbourne. They will play a couple, I think one game a year in Tasmania. So, North Melbourne, we were playing, got the short straw, get to play them in Tasmania. The first quarter was not very good. We didn't score in the first quarter. Not even a behind, not even a single point. So it was 64-0 in the first quarter. Pretty bad. I mean, it looked like a combination of things. We looked like we didn't show up. There had been a lot of talk in the week about that we were 6-0, and just looking at the body language of particularly Sam Jacobs or Ruckman in the media when they were talking about it, just looked like they were drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit, thinking that they were hot stuff because of what had already happened. And so I think it was a bit of a humbling experience to realize that it doesn't matter at all what she did last week or the week before. You don't show up today, you can get belted even by a team who, I mean, North Melbourne ended up in, I think, one of the bottom 3 teams, so they're not that good. But we got belted by them, and I think it was a lack of humility that did us in there. And also it was a horrendously swirly wind, and so because we never play there and they occasionally play there, they at least have a little bit more exposure to the conditions, and so we just did not fire a shot really after that. So we lost that 86-145. The next week was a bit of a different one. We lost again, so still hadn't learned our lesson. This was against the Melbourne Demons, or the D's. So, okay, a little bit of background. So a few years ago, we had a different coach before Phil Walsh and before Don Pike. And it was Brenton Sanderson. And Sando was... he was okay. I mean, he was the person who coached us in our last preliminary final. But he had some interesting things. So one of our players is Bernie Vince. Was Bernie Vince, I should say. And he is kind of a favorite son. Like, everyone loved Bernie. He is a South Australian boy, country lad, just great skills, great guy. And, you know, can be a bit rough around the edges, which makes you like him even more. So, Sando just kind of wrote a line through Bernie, and made it clear to him that he wasn't going to get another contract. He still had a year left on his contract at this point, but basically was like, yeah, you won't be part of our plans going forward. And so, of course, Bernie's gonna, I mean, he's good enough to be playing AFL every week, and so he looked for opportunity elsewhere, got traded to Melbourne. So it was, I think, I'm not sure if it was his 150th or 200th game. So one of his milestone games, always, it's kind of a big deal people make when you get that number of game. And so usually when the crowd, you know, when the other team comes out and it's our home game, usually we're booing the opposition, you know, just a little boo, kind of lighthearted, just let them know, yeah, this isn't your home ground. But this time, because it was for Bernie and it was his, you know, celebration game, got a huge cheer. And I cheered him myself. Like, I love Bernie. I know that it's the club that did him wrong. He didn't turn his back on us. And so, cheer him. But I think that psychologically makes a bit of a difference as well. But, you know, that's the way it is. I don't blame the crowd. I cheered him as well. But I think that gave them a little bit of a boost, you know, to be cheered in that opposition crowd. And obviously then we played like trash, so that gives them even more of a boost. So we lost that 66 to 107. Our highest goal kickers kicked 2 goals apiece, so not really that great. So wasn't the best time of the year, that first quarter, and then to get smashed at home. Not the happiest of times. Round 9, we go up to Queensland, to the Gabba, to play the Brisbane Lions. And we won 140 to 60. Cameron kicked 4, and Eddie Betts kicked a goal that got Goal of the Year nomination. It would have been 3 in a row if he got it, but didn't win it this year, so he only won it 2 years in a row. He has won a third when he played for Carlton. He did win Goal of the Year as well. So that was good. Also got to debut Hugh Greenwood, who didn't really go out of the side after that, and also our first round draft pick from last year, Jordan Gallucci. Looked really good, so I was really happy with his game. We had dropped David McKay to bring him in, and I thought Gallucci looked really good. And it was really funny, actually, because there was a bit of drama so there was a bye in the SANFL that round, so DMAC didn't end up playing, but he got brought back in, even though he hadn't played a game. so everyone was kind of like, oh. But, I mean, he's blistering through the final series, so I guess if he delivers on the big stage, I will sing the coach's praises and admit all my fault for ever faulting DMAC. Round 10, we played the Fremantle Dockers, and this was the arrival of the slops. But really, so Matt Crouch and Brad Crouch, they grew up in Ballarat, and it's a very, apparently the fields can get quite swampy and muddy, especially in the center square, and you get a lot of rain, so they know how to play in the wet, and so that's kind of me and my love have adopted the nickname of the slops for them. Kind of off of the Seinfeld when Kramer is talking about horses and the bookies. He's saying, oh, loves the slop, eats the slop. And like, his father was a mutter, his father was a mutter, his mother was a mutter, his mother was a mutter. And yeah, so after that game, that's what I said to my dad. I was like, oh, the slops. His father was a mutter. And it was funny. But so, because usually in a rainy game, it ends up being tighter, more contested, a bit harder to kind of get on top. Usually a match-winning lead is much lower, so you usually get lower scoring games. But in that game, the final score is 143-43. So we beat them by 100 points. It was a pretty good game. I was okay with getting soaked that night. We're not undercover at all where we sit, so we always get the full brunt of the rain, but definitely worth it. And that game, the Rat, Rory Atkins, got 37 touches. I mean, you'd expect a rodent to do well in the rain, wouldn't you? Round 11. Round 11. It was a learning experience, I'll say that. Last year, when we played Geelong, I kind of thought, well, before the game, I thought if we beat Geelong, then it'll mean that we could win the flag this year. So, me and my love drove over because we're like, yeah, let's go. Let's see if we can do it. So we drove over, flipped Patty off as we were going past the Moggs Creek sign. Patrick Dangerfield, that is. And then showed up to Simmons Stadium. Now, let me just say, as soon as I showed up there and saw it in person, I understood why we lose every time we go there, and why everyone loses every time we go there. Do I still have that paper? No. Most footy grounds are an oval. Simmons is a bowl, so it has this side, and it kind of goes like that. So it's like an oval that has the side chopped off of it. This shows the unprofessionalism of the AFL, that there's not a standard size for an oval. I can accept that, it makes it kind of fun. But having no standard shape, allowing a bowl shape, it's a bit ridiculous, I think. So many sides will kick it out on the full on that side because you're used to having a little bit of a curve there. It's also got a bit of a swirly wind, but to me, the shape of the ground is a joke. It also just, they were playing songs from the 90s. I mean, I love 90s music, but it felt like walking back in time going to that ground. It did not feel modern and good at all. And then we lost, so that made it even worse. But, so that was last year. This year, I kind of had written that game, once I'd gone there last year, I kind of written this game off saying, we need to play well, but I don't really care that much if we lose because it's a joke of a stadium. Well, we didn't really stay in the contest was the big problem. If we don't convert on the end, that doesn't bother me as much, but yeah, we were really bad for about 3 quarters. We were okay in the 4th quarter, so the final result ended up flattering us a bit. We did a lot worse than that, so we ended up losing that 74-96. But Tex did kick some important goals in the 4th quarter, trying to get us back in it. But the important thing about that game was the fallout from that game, because I think the players had a really long, hard look at themselves after that game. Rory Laird, he got taken out by Nakaya Cockatoo. Just really, just kind of roughed up off the ball and didn't really do a lot after that. I don't remember what Brodie Smith's game was like either, but there just a few players, they were kind of beating us up. And what I remember is in the press conference, there was a press conference with Tex, the captain, after that. And he was saying that they had reviewed it and that they were going to approach things differently. He said, he wasn't going to say what, but he said, the next time we play them, you'll see it. And so I was like, oh, that sounds good, and I hope we'll be able to see it. But I wasn't quite sure, so we'll get to that when we get to our next Cats game. Round 12 was against the St. Kilda Saints. One of the most boring games of football that I've been to. We won easily, 111-54. And this was the one opportunity I had to showcase the most exciting game on earth to my mom. So, yeah, a bit of a fizzer. We won really easily. There wasn't anything that exciting going on. Bit of a fizzer. And the crowd was not very into it. I think they were a bit flat because we'd lost to Geelong. And we just kind of felt like, well, we should beat St. Kilda, and we did beat St. Kilda, so a bit of a fizzer. So, sorry, Mom, that's the game we got you to. It was a good time after that. Round 13 is when we had our bye, so we didn't play. And then round 14, the Hawks came to Adelaide Oval. Now, I told you we hadn't beaten them since 2011 or so. Been a long time. Well, they beat us. So I was thinking in the back of my head about what Tex was saying, and I'm like, not seeing a huge difference here. I was losing to the Hawks because they're a very kind of tough team. Play the man rather than the ball type team. So I was a bit nervy. It's just thinking, can we actually do it this year? Because, getting beaten by the Hawks again, got beaten by Geelong. Then round 15, we went back to the MCG, played the Blues. I'm quite sure this is the game that Mitch McGovern came back as well, who's one of my favorite players. This banner actually behind me on the other side says, "You got Goved." It's a beautiful banner. I love Gov. So it was great to have him back. Also had Riley Knight, I think, came back around then. I think it was around that game. And just having a couple characters in there that are a bit like Gov was just ready to go everyone. It was just like looking people in the eye and just throwing a couple punches. And Riley Knight is well, as BT says, he's hard as a cat's head, Riley Knight. But he's just, he's got some aggro about him. And Jake Kelly was being aggro as well. There was some signs there. Wasn't the cleanest of games. We only ended up winning by 2 goals. But we got the job done. Most important thing, especially on the road in the season, get the job done. So we won 89-77. Round 16, we got to take on the reigning premiers. However, did we beat them? I don't like to trash talk the Bulldogs a lot because my son goes for them. And obviously it was a very happy moment for him that they won the flag last year. But they are the worst Premiership side ever. I gotta level with you. I also hate them because their coach is an absolute dickhead. Some drama between one of their players is old players. He's now, well, been delisted. I don't know if he'll get picked up by anybody. One of their players is Daniel Talia's brother. And there was some drama about text messages, about strategy before a final. And the bloody coach would not even talk to Michael Talia. So he hears this story and doesn't go to his player and say, tell me your side of the story. He just won't field his calls, won't talk to him, won't listen, and they just send him off to another club. How unprofessional. The coach's name is Luke Beveridge. It's not spelled like the beverage that you drink, but so sometimes people call him Drink. To be derogatory, I call him Drunk, because I do not like him. They also just don't have, like, any good players. I mean, they have Bont is good, like, really good. And then they have, like, Easton Wood is alright. Bob Murphy was alright. They have no good players. Tom Boyd. Oh, don't get me started on Tom Boyd. They spent so much money to get Tom Boyd in. And he is a waste of money. Anyway. But they won. But we beat them. So, that's all that matters. 104-45. What a damaging team they are. Round 17. Oh, we're getting into the good part of the season. So, I told you about North Melbourne and the Hawks, how they play one game in, or I don't know, I think it's 1, maybe 2, I don't know, in Tasmania. The Melbourne Demons, they play a game in Darwin. So, again, somehow it's a fixture, so they choose it. Anyway. So again, we get to travel to the unknown place, but that's cool. We actually have a lot of support in Darwin. Our women's team is partially from Darwin as well, so all good. They love us up there. Now, I think there was about 4,000 just cheering for Eddie alone, so it's good. Go up there. It's super hot. Obviously, the rest of the country, it's wintertime, pretty cold. Up there, tropics, winter need not apply. Super humid, super hot. It's a very draining game on the body. But we won 116-70. Funny part of that game, I told you, Bernie Vince, he plays for them. So I think Dean Kemp, I don't remember his name. Anyway, he tackled Rory Sloan, and Sloan got knocked out. And so he's on the ground, the trainers come over, and he's, okay, I'm getting seen by the trainers. The trainers bring over, what's it called? The little, it's not a dolly. I can't remember or they put you on and then carry you, you know, if you're injured, especially with your neck. And as soon as Sloney saw that, he just jumped straight up, like that, seeing that was an offense to him, that somebody would think that he would be going on that. He just jumped straight up, and he just starts, like, you could tell he wasn't all there, because he starts doing his little warm-ups, like he does, like when he's coming out at the beginning of a game. So he's doing these little warm-ups, and the trainers are telling him, hey, Sloney, you need to come off. And apparently he sees one of the trainers, and he thinks it's Bernie Vince. And so the trainers tell him, oh, you know, it's not safe, like, Sloney, you need to come off. And Sloney says to him, I'm not you, mate. So it was really funny. So he's just completely ignoring the trainer's advice. Eddie Betts tries to go over to him, tell him, hey, mate, you might want to get off the field. Doesn't listen. Tex comes over, kind of chats with him. He doesn't go off. And then Tex basically lays down the law. It's like, Sloney, we need you to get off. And then he finally listens to Tex and gets off. So that was a funny little incident. But yeah, so we won that 116-70, and Tex kicked 4 beauties. And then came round 18. The time to see if something had changed. For any of my non-Australian people watching this right now, there's a term in Australia that they use a lot in sport called mongrel. Mongrel, what would you describe it? It's kind of grit, so that ability to just defy the odds. It's that just ruthless desire to succeed. It's not necessarily about skill and precision. It's about just pure desire to crush your opponent. So, we've been talking forever about how the Crows lack mongrel, how they don't fly the flag is a phrase you use a lot as well, which is basically if somebody puts your player down, you go in and you make it like doubly worse. Like you stand up, you make it so that they are not singling out an individual, they're taking on the team. And we've been bad about flying the flag in the past. The other thing is, so Patrick Dangerfield, when he left us, the first game that we played against them, we just completely ignored Patrick, so just kind of acted like he didn't exist. Well, he still played really well with that. This game was completely different. This thing, every chance to put an elbow into his arm, hip and shoulder him, give him a nudge. Like every time there was a stoppage, everyone was getting into him. They were tackling, giving it a bit extra, tackling hard. Just so much desire. And it wasn't just Patrick, it was everyone just going in together as a unit to demolish this side. Now, I don't remember if I said this, but the final margin in the previous Cats game flattered us because we came back in the fourth quarter a bit. Well, in this game, the final margin seriously flattered Geelong for 2 reasons. One, the umpires were abysmal in trying to keep Geelong in it. That's a little bit of my own lens obviously coming through there. I'm sure they were trying to do their job and it was an subconscious bias rather than an overt bias, but it felt so bad. And then it's very notorious that the week after Darwin, sides have a really hard time running out games. So we blitzed them up until the fourth quarter, and I don't think we even scored a goal in the last quarter. So it was a pretty rough last quarter, but we got the game done. So we beat them 91-70. And yes, Tex, you are correct. You changed it, and thank God. Oh, it was so good. It was the first time that we'd beaten Geelong since Patrick Dangerfield got over there. That's not how they pronounce it here. That's how my love pronounces it, as an insult to him. Round 19. This was an interesting game. Playing Collingwood Magpies. I haven't had a great year, so didn't make finals. Kind of middling in the kind of in the teens. I think I don't know exactly where they finished. And so the first half, honestly, we looked like we were not there. Just looked like we didn't exist as a team. And so then in the third quarter, the margin got out to 50. Generally, it's considered that if you're about 30 points up, 36, especially later in the game, like if it's in the third quarter, you would think that's probably a match-winning goal, a match-winning lead. If it's in the first quarter, obviously there's a lot more time to kind of gently eke away at it. Just, a couple goals here, a couple goals there. But in the third quarter, especially if you're up 50 points, yeah, you're expecting to win that game. And I think we really scared the competition that day. We didn't win, but we didn't lose either. So in regular season games, there is no extra time. It's just if you finish on equal scores, then it's a draw. And my man Gov, God, so many things to say. So first thing was we were coming back at them. We got within a goal, I think, and we didn't hit the front. And then they got momentum back. They got a couple more goals up. That we came back a second time after, because usually if you go on that run, usually when they get 2 or 3 goals again, the team kind of gets deflated, thinks they can't do it. We just kept going. We're not going to let this go. So then it's in the last 30 seconds or so. We're down a goal. And we're inside 50. There's a mark in. Jenkins gets taken down holding the ball. So they have a free kick inside our 50. They kick it out. Jake Kelly gets it. Jake Kelly takes a little bit of time, just a sec, turns in, kicks it to the hot spot, top of the square, and there's a huge pack there, just a massive pack. And it just looks like, okay, hopefully it'll come down, somebody will, get something off the deck. And then Gov comes soaring in from the side and grabs the ball. And you can see he's running back off his mark to go and kick the goal. And you can see the little step of disappointment as the siren goes, because he was still thinking we're going to win this game. So he goes back, kicks the goal, we draw the game. The most exciting non-win that I've ever seen. So good. To come back from 50 though, I think, well, that's scary. Because that just means you can't ever feel comfortable, which is great as a supporter because it means you don't ever have to lose hope. So that was amazing, even though we didn't win. Very good. Round 20, next showdown. We won very easily, 130-46. I'm going to kind of breeze through these next ones. This one and round 21 against the Bombers. We won 123-80. There was something funny there, actually. Joe Danaher, he's one of the big forwards for Essendon, and after one of his goals, he came up and kind of, I don't know if he gave a kiss or did something to Rat's face, and there was a bit of a storm in a teacup over it on social media, and then the Rat came out after the game and was like, oh yeah, no, we're mates, because they played together in junior footy, so they knew each other, was just mates, you know, being mates. So that was a bit funny, but yeah, it was also funny because, oh, what was his name? That's because of the umpiring. I haven't been watching it the other sides as much, so I don't remember the players' names on the other teams as well. It wasn't Carlisle. Anyway, they had some player who, like, had really difficult shots on goal, kicked them all. They still won. When normally he wouldn't. Then round 22. This was an important game. We lost it, but very important. Playing the Sydney Swans. By this time, we'd already made top 4, so we already knew we had a double chance. And so there wasn't a lot for us to play for. Sydney still had a chance of missing finals, so you can't fabricate that difference in motivation. So first quarter, that was really obvious that there was that lag, so they got ahead of us. And then we came back and we actually hit the front in the fourth quarter. We ended up losing by 3 points, but I think it was more important just to show that we could come back, hit the front, and also if there wouldn't have been a really dodgy decision, we probably would have won anyway. Because there was a 50-meter penalty called when it was not 50 meters against Eddie Betts, and if that would have been the case, well, anyway. But it doesn't really matter now, but yeah, so it was just really important to show, especially that we could match the level of Sydney, because they're the team that knocked us out of the finals last year, so we have so it was just super important that we just show that we could match them in the middle. So, very good for that. Lost by 3 points. Really, in that way, made it good, made it sure that we're still hungry, not complacent. So, good. Round 23, we rested Talia and Tex because of the way other results had gone. We'd already guaranteed ourselves top spot, so there was literally nothing for us to play for. And so, yeah, so we rested those players, and Sloaney had an absolute shocker. He was still winning the ball, but looked like he couldn't dispose of it properly, but I wasn't really worried at all. The Eagles also had to beat us by 22 points, something like that, in order to make the finals. So the Melbourne Demons fans were cheering for us to win, and we were kind of like, hopefully we can win. And so we made some Demons fans sad. To be fair, if the Demons would have won that weekend, they would have guaranteed themselves a final anyway, so more the Demons' fault than ours. And that was the game where Hartigan did really well on Kennedy as well, which was actually really good because that's usually, Talia is amazing shutdown defender. Nobody scores against him except Kennedy. And so to have Hartigan be able to really keep him quiet was really good. So that was round 23. Then week off and qualifying final against the Giants. A lot of people were talking after the game about how poor the Giants were. And I think that was a little insulting to us. I think the pressure we put on made them look worse than they actually are. Although they also played badly against the Tigers, but they also put on, they're supposed to be the second best pressure team. Or we're, I don't remember who's first and who's second. I think we're first though. So we ended up beating them by 84-48. I kind of put Q in the rack by the last quarter. And yeah, pretty good game. We sat up in, as I said, our normal seats are in the first row. In finals, you don't sit in your normal seats. You don't sit in your normal seats. So we went from the first row all the way to the very last row. So I'll actually show you a picture. You could see, the crowd had a really hard time getting in on time. But so there was a glass right behind us, so you could actually see behind and see outside. So very, very top row is very high up, but a lot of fun. And you could see how well we were coached up there just to see how all the movement was. And then, of course, it was going to happen. We were watching. I was hoping, I knew we hadn't beaten Sydney in the year. So we had a week off because we won that. So then we were waiting to find out who we were going to play. And Geelong and Sydney were playing, and we were going to play the winner. And I hate Patrick Dangerfield, and therefore Geelong. And so I was hoping that we would see Sydney win, even though we hadn't beaten them. Good time to get another crack against them as well. But Sydney, they went 0-6 the first 6 rounds of the season, so no wins. So they've been kind of just puffing their way through. The rest, just every week has been like an elimination final, and it just looked like it had been too much for them by that point, that it was just too far a hurdle to go to take on Geelong as well. So they lost, and then that sent Patrick and the Cats over to us. And there were so many delicious moments in that game. My top 3 probably went 3-2-1. My favorite one being at the end. I think I might have said these in my other video, but I'm gonna do them again. Okay, first of all, the crowd was insanely loud. My ears were ringing after 5 minutes. We were cheering, we were jumping. I was so sore after the game. I've never been sore after a game just from cheering. So we're jumping up. And I remember after Charlie, he celebrated like this, and I would go and just spinning around doing this. It was so much fun. But all of my 3 favorite moments had to do with Dangerfield, because I hate him so much. First one, he took a mark within like the first couple minutes, shanked it, of course. He's a suspect kick, but you always knew he was going to shank it with all the pressure on early like that. He kicked a couple in the second. He actually had a really good second quarter. But then at the end, he and Sloaney just hit each other like a freight train. And Sloaney just got back up, was running to the next contest, and Patrick's just laying there on the ground. He wasn't knocked out, he just was laying there, and then got up and jogged over to the bench. But when he was laid out on the ground, I was standing up and I was screaming at him. So good. And then the final one. He's running across, so you have the goal sticks here. He's running across probably about 15 in front, which is like a gimme. And he kicks those all the time as well. And he absolutely shanked it. And the crowd kind of did, we called them Bronx cheers, so kind of go, hey, So like, it's a little bit of a cheer, but it's more like, hey, you suck. They'll do that sometimes as well, like if the umpires have been really doing a bad job, or we think they're doing a bad job, not that they necessarily are. Your vision when you're in a crowd can be worse than when you're watching on TV. I also disagree with the crowd many times as well, anyway, but there are plenty of times where I've thought something was a free kick at the ground and then go back and watch it on TV and I'm like, umpire was correct. But anyway, and then they'll cheer, hey, when we finally get a free kick. So that's funny. Bronx cheer. And he just got this little smirk on his face, just this little smile. And part of me just was like, Patty, you're smiling because you miss the Adelaide fans cheering for you. And so even if it's a Bronx cheer, I think you're a little happy that you got a cheer from the Adelaide crowd. But just watching him shake, it was just so good. And that was the prelim. Cameron kicked 5 goals. Bloody beautiful. And today is the big one. Hopefully we'll get the job done. I think we're the better team. I mean, I'm tipping a 10-goal win. That's honestly what I think. 10 goals. I won't be surprised if it's less. I won't be surprised if it's a really tight game. It's a grand final. I mean, the rule book kind of goes out, but hope we get it done. But I'll be there cheering, giving the Eddie cheer. So it'll be 5.5 hours from when this video came out. That is when the grand final will be. So I'm excited. Hope we do well. So thank you all my Crows fans and my Tinglings for watching. If you have any questions about footy, put them in the comments. Requests for other videos about the Crows in the comments. I love requests like that. And hopefully you have a nice day. I will be returning to regular programming tomorrow. I have a nice, I'm excited about what I have tomorrow. We're going to be doing some Halloween specials, so it should be fun in October. So, I will see you later. Goodbye, my Tinglings, and go the Crows! Thanks for watching.